Majority of Americans now agree. 75% of the American people believe that our federal government is corrupt. I agree with them, so do you. That's why you're nodding your head up and down. What does corrupt mean? Corrupt means you serve some but not others. In truth, the bigger and more complicated and more powerful government gets, who does it favor? The big, the powerful, the wealthy, the well-connected. And meanwhile, our government does not serve those that it was intended to serve. The VA is not adequately serving veterans, and it is a stain on our nation's honor. But what also has gone on? 82% of the American people now think we have a professional political class that cares more about the preservation of its own power, position, and privilege than on getting anything done. And could there be any more flagrant example of this, of the corruption of the federal government and the failure of the professional political class to do anything about it than the scandal at the VA? The truth is, we have been talking about reforming the VA for how long? 20 years at least. And scandal upon scandal upon scandal, and yet nothing fundamentally has changed. See, that's what politicians do. They talk, but they don't actually change it. I applaud the concerned veterans of America and the efforts they are making. I applaud their bipartisan task force that said these are the fundamental reforms that must be undertaken to serve our veterans in the way that they have earned. But I also know that it won't happen unless we as citizens decide to take our government back. And that is why I'm running for president. It reminds me of the difference between management and leadership. You see, managers are people who do the best they can within the existing system. They don't ever really challenge the system. They kind of operate within it. They kind of accept the status quo, whether it's broken or not. And what happens when you accept a system as it is you end up tinkering around the edges of problems. You don't ever really get to the core. Managers tinker around the edges. And we got a lot of managers in Washington, D.C. Leaders are something altogether different. Leaders are people who know their job is to challenge the status quo. Leaders are people who have the courage to say, I do not accept what has been broken just because it has been broken for a very long time. Leaders stand up, and I believe, as a leader, as the President of the United States, I will stand up with the citizens of this great nation and take our government back. You know, one of my great heroes is Margaret Thatcher. And Margaret Thatcher once said to her fellow countrymen and women at a pivotal time in that nation's history, she said, I am not content to manage the decline of a great nation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have been managing the decline of a great nation for quite long enough now. What we need is leadership. And I am prepared, with your support, with your prayers, with your votes, to lead the resurgence of this great nation. Leading the resurgence of this great nation means we care for those who have served. Leading the resurgence of this great nation means we finally cut this government down to size and hold it accountable. Leading the resurgence of this great nation means we restore possibilities throughout this nation for every American, regardless of their circumstances. And leading the resurgence of this great nation also means that we lead in the world, because when we do not lead, the world is a very dangerous place. And so what does leadership in the world mean? Let us start with the fundamentals. We must have the strongest military on the face of the planet, and everyone needs to know it. And having the strongest, yes, you can applaud, sir, it's okay. And having the strongest military on the face of the planet means we need to invest. You know, in the Pentagon, I advise